for you. You just got to sit back and watch, because here it comes, your pregame show. Everybody, how you doing? It's Dave here, and Darren, that side, from the Great White North, and as you can see behind him, it's quite white. Has it snowed yet up there, buddy?
Yeah, we got snow on Tuesday. Little dusting, didn't last. It was gone by 10 a.m. in the morning. Yeah, white's just the backdrop because I don't have the sweet setup that you Viking setup that you do, Dave.
Well, we can fix that. Anyways,
we'll talk.
Speaking of fixing it, we wanted to talk about tomorrow's game. The Minnesota Vikings travel to Carolina to attempt to defeat the Carolina Panthers in their home stadium. And speaking of white, they're wearing their all whites. White on top, white on the bottom. I think it is probably one of their most classic combinations they have presently. Hopefully, like last time they did it, they win. What do you think?
That was wasn't that against the Bears you're talking about, where they went white on white?
Last year they went once. They started with against Tampa, almost won that one, and then they wore it a few times after that and won.
I know they wore it against the I'm pretty sure they wore it against the Bears on the road last year when they won in Soldier Field. I'm almost positive.
Okay.
But those tricky Vikings, what are they going to be up to this Sunday to madden us, thrill us, make us go WTF every second drive? Usually, I don't know. It's just a mystery what that team's going to bring to us tomorrow.
Hey, Viking Jerome. We welcome everybody, and I'm sure KHY 001 he may be a Cowboys fan, but who do we play after the bye? The Cowboys.
So D-Town.
They may be scouting early.
And, it could be.
So, They're welcome. Anybody's welcome to watch. The more the merrier. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your enemies. I don't care. Tell Packers fans. As long as they don't troll, they'll get banned if they do. But, hey, that happens. So, we're going to get this rolling.
Dave's got a quick trigger on the banning Packers fans, dude.
Well, as soon as I can fight it and they get stupid, by all means. All right. We are set up. You wanted to talk about a whole long boat full of stuff today.
I did. Wanted to get out, kind of look at what the Panthers do well and what they don't do well.
Hey, David.
Santa.
He's talking about you in the white beard.
Yeah.
Double doink.
What they do,
Is in
what
the
they
house.
do well. They all are out. Unfortunately, I think that Cam Irving is back in their starting left tackle, so that'll be a plus for the Panthers offensive line. And I believe GHY0001 is liking the Vikings this weekend. Can't say I agree, but we'll get to that.
we will get to that. But you want to talk about who's out, who's in? You even have the injury report right here.
Awesome. Ben Ellefson, huge loss for the Vikings.
Yeah, good blocking tight end.
Yeah, whatever.
That's all we got.
They don't throw to him, and they don't throw to Justin Jefferson either. But the key things were looking at, of course, McCaffrey is out. That's a huge loss for the Panthers, but they've been dealing with that for a few weeks now.
Right.
That means Chuba Hubbard from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, will be the starting running back for the Panthers, as he has been the past 2 weeks. And Chuba is a lot of some people might remember him from his Oklahoma State days, where he ran for over 2,000 yards two seasons ago for Oklahoma State, and he had some injury problems last year in that shortened COVID college season. And that caused him to drop down to the 5th round. The Panthers grabbed him in the 5th round, and now he's starting for them. Only averaging 3.9 yards per carry, so he's not on the surface. It looks like he's a guy that shouldn't kill the Vikings. But I watched I watched him against the Cowboys, and I watched him last week against the Eagles, and he's got good vision. Pretty good. Hasn't been the big home run threat that McCaffrey is, but he catches the ball well out of the backfield, and he's got good vision. He hits the hole pretty well. He's decisive in his runs, and with the way the Vikings have been playing run defense all season, I suspect that they'll have trouble containing him, just like they've had trouble containing every running back they've played this year.
Let's hope not, but
hope is not a plan, Dave, as I often say.
Hope is not a plan. All right.
That's kind of it. That's again, McCaffrey is the big thing. Shaq Thompson potentially could be another key loss for the Panthers linebackers. Panthers defense.
Oh yes.
Their linebacker. He was a guy that he's one of the. Actually, a lot of their linebackers are like this. They've got a lot of 6'1", kind of 225, 230 range linebackers, kind of hybrid linebacker safety types. Not big guys, but they fly to the ball. And Shaq Thompson is one of those guys who's always around the ball. They ask him to do a lot, and he's not going to be doing anything because he won't be playing.
Right, and he was their leading tackler coming into this game.
Sometimes that's not always a good thing.
True.
Like Kendricks has got a lot of tackles, and we know how a lot of them are 5-6 yards past the line of scrimmage when he makes them.
I happen to have that stat. Here we go. Leading tacklers playing in this game, you have Kendricks, who has 55, and I'm okay with the linebacker having it, because a lot of times they're filling holes. They're intended to tackle, right?
Yep.
That's cool. Most of your linebackers should have the most tackles.
True.
Right? He's got 55. On the Panthers side, your leading tackler is your corner, Dante Jackson, right? He has
Usually
20.
that is not a good thing.
Usually that's not a good thing. That's like thinking Trey Wayne's leading tackling was a good thing. Well, he may have done some great tackling, had great tackling numbers, but they were at least 10 yards downfield, and it sort of defeats the purpose of trying to stop somebody.
Yes.
And I think Dante Jackson is probably similar. Dante Jackson is a decent cornerback. We'll talk about it more here in a bit. But he is their leading tackler. Before that, it was Shaq Thompson, but Shaq Thompson only had 25. So they do have their issues. The Panthers started out 3-0 and then have lost their next two. So, and their 3-0 were against, relatively cupcake opponents, supposedly in the NFL.
Beat the Saints, who aren't a cupcake, but aren't the Saints of the Breeze days, and they beat the Houston Texans, who also are a cupcake team this year. Mm-hmm. And then lost to the Cowboys, and last week lost to the Eagles, and I'm sure that the Panthers are going to be pissed about losing that game because they had it in control, much like the Vikings had the Detroit game in control, and they let the Eagles hang around, and a couple of mistakes were made. Like the big one was a block punt late in the game in Carolina territory, which gave the Eagles the ball at the 27-yard line. They got a touchdown, went to go ahead by 1 point, or to go ahead. Then they went for two and ended up being up, converted that, and then they won the game by 3 points. So the Panthers are going to be pissed that they lost that game, but they did it to themselves.
Right, and that leads you to talk about that. To the special team scores. Special team rankings, the only ones I can find are Football Outsiders, and they have the Vikings at 15. This is all four aspects of special teams: kickoffs, punts, punt returns, kickoff returns, all melded into one. And as you can see, Football Outsiders has the Panthers special team at 27. I do know that PFF tracks special teams. However, they do not have a composite score. I asked. It's not available to the public. So,
the Panthers special teams is got that ranking. Haven't watched that too closely, but they have had some place kicking issues this year, which has hurt them. And
Gonzalez is their kicker.
Yeah. Well, he's their kicker now, but he wasn't their kicker to start the season, right. I don't think. And it's been early in the season too to be changing kickers, but they don't get a great deal in the return game.
Sounds like place kicking issues.
Yes. Whereas the Vikings place kicking and punting and coverage teams have been pretty good. Mm-hmm. Why they're middle of the pack, I would suspect, is that their return game has also gotten very little. Like their kickoff returns, when they are returned, they're not getting very much. And the punt return, D.D. Westbrook has been kind of pretty bad.
I'm hoping to see, and I didn't see if he was elevated, and we might not find out till Sunday, if Wang Chung, Kene Nwangu, is up, because I want to see him start to return some kickoffs. The dude specialized in it in college. He wants to build his career on it. I want to see him get the chance, not, first play of the game, hyperextend his knee. But he was practicing this week, I know. But when he makes the final 53, that's up probably to a final decision. Then maybe game time. So we'll see.
I've never seen... I can't remember a kickoff returner that Viking fans have been as excited to see in action.
Mm-hmm. Other than Cordero Patterson, right? Which we knew after he was so good. But somebody there is anticipated to see. Yes,
that's what I'm talking about.
Is
like
Wang
Patterson,
Chung.
You were excited because you knew he could take it to the house. Nwangu we're excited because he won't be Amir Abdullah or Amir Smith-Marset.
That's right.
Or whoever, Andre Allison. There's a blast from the past.
Yep. Mary, we'll get to can we come out decisive. But first, Darren
I
wanted
would
to talk
say
about how these teams matched up. So, uh, Percy Harvin's available. Percy Harvin's past his prime, unfortunately. Um,
probably smoking a few doobies right now.
well, which is okay in the NFL today. It wasn't back
Yeah.
then, but um, Darren wanted to see how these teams matched up. So let's take a look. Do you want to look at Vikings offense versus Panthers D first? Or
Yes, please.
there we go. Bada boom. Our offense, all the rankings listed here. You see by PFF, Football Outsiders, Elias Sports Bureau. And if you're not familiar with who Elias Sports Bureau is, they are the company that provides the official stats to the NFL, ESPN, CBS, and everybody else and their brother. When you're looking up stats, that's beyond the, super analytic types like Football Outsiders and PFF. That's the stats you're seeing. Down there on sacks in the red, and when we get to both of these, is how many sacks they've taken. In the white, when we're looking like the Panthers defense, it's where they rank and how many sacks they've actually gotten over the first 5 games. And the line down at the bottom, Vikings have moved from being down by 1 point to being favored by 2.5 as the week went on.
The McCaffrey effect, maybe.
Maybe that obviously was part of it, but they went up. They went up to plus Vikings, or yeah, Vikings -1 in the middle of the week, even when McCaffrey was looking like he might play. And it's when word was getting out that McCaffrey wasn't going to play, it shot up to Vikings -2.5.
Yeah. Looking at the offense defensive part of this here, a bit surprised that Pro Football Focus has the Panthers as low as they do. We were talking a bit about this offline or online last yesterday, Dave, and that PFF is not convinced with the level of play that the Panthers have faced that they're as good as their their stats are
Right. Look
suggesting.
at all the other rankings. Even Football
Yeah,
Outsiders have them
Football
second
Outsiders.
overall, and Elias has them. You can see all the different
Yeah,
ones, and
the
that
yeah
that
Football
PFF
Outsiders had
has.
them at 02 overall, and the
Mhm.
Buffalo Bills have their number one defense. And if you've watched the Bills or if you watch the Bills play Sunday night and saw what they did to the Kansas City Chiefs, you'd have to, you wouldn't disagree with them being ranked
Mm-mm.
number one in any category. I didn't watch I haven't didn't watch the previous 3 games that the Panthers played, but I did watch the last 2. They had a rough go of it against Dallas. Didn't Dallas ran the ball pretty effectively against them as the most effective anybody has against Carolina, and they scored well over 30 points and kind of had their they did whatever they wanted to do, which is kind of what Dallas has been doing this season to a lot of teams. But against Philadelphia, the what I noticed about the Panthers is they've got a lot of some key guys for them, and you might not. Obviously, Hassan Reddick, he's got 6.5 sacks this year. He's a guy you got to watch out for. Brian Burns, 3 sacks. So there you got 2 of their main pass rushers. They're the kind of Daniil Hunter, Everson Griffin for the Carolina Panthers. The Vikings offense has to handle them. Another guy that's a key for them is Derek Brown. You might remember he was a 7th overall pick in 2020. Defensive tackle, big space eater, and to me, when I watched, particularly in the Philly game, he occupies a lot of blockers, creates a lot of problems up front with taking up space, clogging running lanes. He's a guy that looks like last year he was kind of quiet. I feel it looks like he's coming into his own and really living up to that 7th overall pick situations. You're putting up some of the pressures there from guys. Morgan
There's their
Fox is a
top
guy.
three.
Yeah, Morgan Fox is a guy that Again, he's a starting guy for them. You probably don't hear a whole lot about him because you'll be hearing more about Reddick and Burns, but you take a look at the pressures. It's third overall on the Panthers team. 12 is pretty good over 5 games. And
And if you want a comparison to the Vikings, here are the Vikings' top pressures. And if you add those up, it's about the exact same. And why you have one
wow.
and Tomlinson down at the bottom, they both have 7. So, but it's
really
close.
The what really is for the Vikings offense versus the Panthers defense, which is what's concerning for a Vikings fan on all of this, is that can the Vikings offensive line, particularly the tackles, whether it's Hill and Darisaw and O'Neill, I think O'Neill will be okay, but they're going to have to handle Burns and Reddick and keep them from harassing Cousins. And the other thing is, can the offensive line open up any sort of holes against the Carolina run defense that on paper in most of the rankings is very good against stopping the run. We know the Vikings offense, as far as rushing this year, is down considerably. You saw that like last year they were 5th overall in yards gained, and this year they're 14th. And Football Outsiders, like you say, they've got them as the 28th ranked rushing offense in the NFL, which is really bad and surprising when you consider, Cook's missed a couple of games, but we had him for 2.5. Madison has been solid, not spectacular what he has done, but the run blocking for the Vikings is graded pretty poorly, particularly by defensive DVOA, and even to my eyes, they've looked poor. Like the yards that Madison and Cook have had to generate after contact have been substantial. That is not good. You're not seeing these kind of big. With Cook, if you just give him a crease, some daylight, he can turn that into a great gain.
Yeah, but as you can see here, even his production is down so far this season. He's only averaging 4.4. Now, he's played part of it with gimped up ankles, and that's killing us. Now, he still has 15 first downs, which is nice, but even PFF isn't giving him the love they normally do. He's average. Their 60 is their average mark, right? Yep. And you want to be at 70 or better.
Well, he didn't have a great game against the Bengals, which was the first game. Was much better the second week against the Cardinals, particularly in the first half. And in the third, he didn't play against Seattle. Played half the game against the Browns and wasn't particularly effective. So I can see why his rankings would be that low. But I think that the reason the rankings are low is that partially the Vikings' offensive run blocking has been pretty poor all season, and Football Outsiders has indicated that. And like I was saying, I'm not seeing a whole lot of big holes for our running backs to run through, and I'm not even seeing little holes for them to run through a lot of times. And is that how much of that is the play calling, where we're running too much on obvious run situations, which has been a Viking thing for several years now under Zimmer, but is that partly the problem? Plus the run blocking is just not up to par. But you got to think that the Vikings, to win this game, have to have some success running the ball. And the other thing is that with Cousins last week, Jalen Hurts was running for his life a lot of times, but Hurts could get away from a lot of that because he's a very mobile young guy. Cousins is not that guy. If he faces the same kind of pressure that Hurts did last week, I think we're going to see multiple sacks, a lot of check downs, a lot of throwaways, and not a whole lot of success through the air. And I'm not sure. I think Stephen Gilmore, I couldn't see if he's playing this week or not. But if he's playing, that's another thing to kind of throw into the mix that's going to make it much more difficult for the Vikings to move the ball.
Yeah, he's not on the injury report.
Yeah, but it's not an injury thing, right? They traded
Oh,
for
yeah,
him
that's right.
2 weeks ago, and he was on the physically unable to perform list. And I think this week he gets off it, but whether he plays or how much he plays, I'm not sure. I think that's a key thing because I assume that they might have him if they want. They might have him on JJ, and
Right.
then JJ's been he's been the guy in the passing attack this so far in the first 5 games. He's the guy that they're looking to, that they're throwing to most often. And if they shut him down and we can't run the ball very well, it makes you kind of wonder how the Vikings are going to.
Who's that dude says next week is the earliest.
Good.
Good.
I'm happy to hear that.
Well, you talking about JJ. JJ has had 44 targets so far. And you're looking at his stats, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
We're going a little bit out of sequence. Adam has been targeted 33 times on almost the identical amount of plays. Adams actually had one more play than Justin. And you're looking at his stats. The Panthers are going to have fun. It's going to be a question why popped up originally the Kubiak Zimmer pictures. I wanted you to ask you about that. Mm-hmm. With Zimmer saying he wanted everybody to do their normal bye week scout and look for tendencies. All right. It seems to us as we watch the games that we're getting into ruts. Second and long, hand the ball off. Second and long, hand the ball off. Second and long, hand the ball off. Here, let's throw these passes. Oh, there's too high. Let's no longer throw to Justin Jefferson, right? And it's things that drive the fan, and especially the fan that knows anything about football, absolutely crazy. Do you think that with this whole let's look at our tendencies and go over things and change stuff, that we're going to see changes and improvement come Sunday? Especially from Clint in particular.
It's too bad this would have been another stat to get, but when you talk about self-scouting, and that's always done during the bye week. And what's the Vikings' record after bye weeks under Zimmer? It's pretty piss poor, isn't it? Like they are.
No. I think he's won all but 2.
Well, off on that one. It seems like they always lose off.
I could be wrong. I very well could be wrong, but I think he's won all but 2.
They always used to win with Denny Green off the bye week, but. I think you'll see. You better see a few different things tomorrow if you've been self-scouting and trying to get away from your tendencies. My God, then if you don't do that, then why the hell did you do it? But
that never stopped them, Darren.
Yeah, how effective is it going to be? You have to, in order to, even if you do different things and get away from tendencies, you still have to execute. And this team on offense, particularly lately, execution is a big issue. Executing on the blocking, executing on making the throwing passes to guys that are dominating, and then you stop doing it. So I have my doubts that the Vikings will be, that this couple of days of self-scouting is going to really reap a huge amount of rewards for the Vikings against the Panthers. The thing is, though, is that it's the NFL and funny stuff happens every week. You think X is going to happen and Y happens. Vikings are on the road. They've scored a grand total of 23 points in the last 2 games. Sorry, that's terrible. They've scored a grand total of, they got 19 last week and 7 the week before. So that's 26. Math was never very good for me, Dave. So but that is a pretty low amount of points for an offense that both of us felt should be really explosive coming into the season. and Mike Zimmer had mentioned that last year that offense was the most explosive during his tenure, which makes you think that he got that was enough for him. Like he got spooked by that and pulled back the
Well,
reins.
as we can still see, PFF has him ranked ninth. Football Outsiders, not so much. And it's interesting how PFF's different on this. But Elias, it's 11 for passing, 11 for yards. We drop when it comes to rushing because we've already discussed that. And then we're 22nd on points because we can't score shit in the second half.
Yeah, there was an interesting. There was one of your Daily Norseman old colleagues, or Eric Thompson. He tweeted out something this week. Drew Bunting and Ted Glover mentioned it on the Vikings report as well on Friday, that the Vikings haven't scored a touchdown in the second half since the first game against the Bengals when Cook ran for a touchdown. I don't know how many drives that there's been.
I think it's 28. He mentioned it on Vikings Hot Take. If you haven't seen it, go back to the Climb in the Pocket YouTube page. Look up Vikings Hot Takes under our videos. You will see it. He talks about, I think it's been 28 drives, and it's punt, 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 field goal, punt, 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 field goal, miss field goal, punt, 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 field goal, punt, 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 field goal, punt, punt, in the game, punt, punt, punt. It's stuff like that, and it just...
And throw in a couple of turnovers with that.
Yeah, there was a couple in there. So, let's
And
switch sides.
Double Doink was talking about making adjustments, and like that's something you're supposed to do in the second. During halftime, you go in there and you come up with this magic potion that allows your offense and defense to operate more successfully than they did in the first half.
For the defense, for the most part, they have. They let their second half touchdown in garbage time last week in like the last 3 weeks. They've done well. They make that adjustments. The offense, however, hasn't, and that's why Zimmer said, no, we're going to try coming out with script plays in the second half.
Yeah, but they have to try something because they
got to do something. Hopefully
in the
it
second
works.
half. But I think that it can't be exactly rocket science. I don't know, but why don't you just get the ball into the hands of the guys that can make
the playmakers.
But nobody. Hey, Steven from Aussie.
Yes.
Let's go, baby. But why not get the ball into the hands of people who are being successful already? Like creative ways. Like I don't know. You'd have to know more about football than this guy does. But I would be interested to see the all 22 tape from the Detroit game and to see what the Lions did differently against Jefferson, if anything, that forced the Vikings to not throw to him until very late.
Oh no, they went to too high. They went to a too high coverage, and Kirk Cousins didn't want to throw in a too high coverage. Thought the risk was too much.
I'm sure
he already said it. He said it after the game, on like Monday or whatever. One of his deals, he didn't want to throw. It was too risky. And it's like, oh, you got to be kidding me. And there's ways to defeat the too high coverage. See, this is what drives me absolutely nuts. If you're getting too high coverage, that means the safeties are playing deep and they're covering anybody that's coming deep, right? I.e. Justin Jefferson, who's running, say, a post pattern, right? They're both going to be on him, and Kirk Cousins doesn't want to take the chance, even though Justin Jefferson, much like Randy Moss used to, would get open. And even if it's contested, he's got a better chance at catching the football. Kirk Cousins didn't want to take that risk, right? So Kirk Cousins usually doinked it down a 2-yarder to C.J. Ham, or a screen behind the line of scrimmage that got immediately tackled. Stupid stuff like that. To defeat too high, it's real simple, right? If both safeties are pulling back with that deep receiver, fine. Use it that way. And then run guys across the middle in that all that space that's wide open now because the safety's just been taken out of the play. And you can actually run guys on the sideline, take the corners out, and you have that middle just absolutely wide open, but with nothing but a linebacker defending. And you can kill people on that. Then you're taking that 10, you're taking the intermediate range, 10 to 20, right? And you're dumping off to Conklin, or you're dumping off to KJ Osborne, right? And you're getting, hey, Kirk Cousins to Osborne for 12 yards, first down, right? And then they do it again. Kirk Cousins to Conklin for 13 yards, first down. They're doing it again. And guess what? They're driving down the field. Hey, yep. Right?
Yeah.
Until you shorten that field and you don't give the safeties room to pad it when you're in the red zone. And then in the red zone, all things change because then you've got everybody available because they're running basically the same depth of routes. And you find the one that's open, Thielen, Jefferson, Osborne, whoever it is, Conklin. Hell, hand the ball off to C.J. Ham at that point and let him get 2 yards if you're from the 2. Whatever it is, you can defeat it. The question is, does the rookie offensive coordinator, Clint Kubiak, see that? He's in the perfect position. He's up high. He's in the booth. He's got the perfect view to see where the open areas are on the field. When I coached at high school, yes, it's high school. I never made it up higher than that levels. And then at other levels, I'd look for the open holes. That's where I would target, right? It's simple. It's football 101. If he can do that, we march down the field and we score points. The question is, does he have the ability to do such? Because so far he has demonstrated he doesn't.
In most of the games.
In most of the games.
The particularly in the second half.
Mm-hmm.
They'll again, when I talk about the all 22, and you're talking about the ways to beat the two high safeties. What would be interesting would be to see what kind of routes when they passed were the Vikings running. I'm sure Jefferson wasn't running a post every play. I'm sure he was running all kinds of different routes, some of which should have been able to beat the coverages that the Lions had because they couldn't cover him in the first half.
Right.
There was nobody near him, except for on that very first catch when he made a great catch on the Cousins kind of deep ball. But otherwise, he was toasting guys, and it's kind of like, so why can't they just rinse and repeat that in the second half? I don't think that the Lions
down
coverage really. I don't think that they had him locked down, but they just chose not to throw to him.
Well, and if they do shut it down, that means they're opening something else up.
That's right. Yeah, I think
and that's where the OC needs to see it.
It also doesn't help when the Vikings, they don't do it every drive in the second half, but when they got Detroit to turn it over on downs late in the fourth, they had no intention of doing anything other than settling for a field goal on that drive. 3 straight, 2 runs and a short pass. Cousins got pressured and he got rid of it quickly. They were setting themselves up for a chip shot field goal, and Joseph didn't make it.
It wasn't much of a chip shot, but yes, they were setting up for a field goal. And when Cousins went up there and he sat there and waited to spike it. Right, he could have run a play. There was enough time.
Well, that's not the drive I'm talking about, though. That was the last one in the game. I'm talking about the one before that.
Before that,
when they got the Detroit turned it over on. I'm getting ahead of myself here, but Detroit turned it over on downs, and we got the ball on their, I don't know what it was, 40-yard line or something like that. That was the one where Joseph came up short on the 49-yarder. The Vikings had no intention of trying to get a touchdown there. It was play it safe, try to kick the field goal. And play it safe, Did not work.
Mm-mm. Quang asked, what's the difference
It was
between a punt and an interception? Generally, Quang, it's distance. We're kicking our punter, Barry, who's done outstanding. Aussie kicker. Speaking of Australia, he's an Aussie kicker. He's done outstanding. If he punts nets 50 yards, you're not going to get a 50-yard interception unless it's a Hail Mary and Kirk actually launches it and has to throw the ball like 60. It's not the difference. The ball gets there further. Plus, you have the extra play. You have the third down, second down, whatever it is, versus the interception. Hope that clears that up.
Also, quarterbacks, no matter what anybody would say, are reluctant to just chuck it up and
unless their name is Jeff George.
Have it intercepted. It just doesn't look good, and then it hurts their contract.
Yeah, and Kirk Cousins wouldn't want to do it.
No.
You wanted to go over the defense. We haven't hit the defense yet.
No, we haven't. No.
We talked about their ratings. We talked about the offensive ratings. Again, PFF has a hard-on for the Panthers. They have them ranked lower, but Football Outsiders doesn't think too much of their offense as well.
Yeah, this is really going to be a game where
even though
the Panthers' offense,
Elias numbers are similar.
Yeah, but the Elias numbers shows that has the Panthers sort of mid pack or even a little bit lower, as opposed to being god awful like Football Outsiders and PFF has. But I think that this one is really what's happened, as particularly the last two games. Sam Darnold, he's lost McCaffrey, and he's been had to face two teams. The Cowboys again made things uncomfortable him in the pocket, and the Eagles were able to get a lot of pressure just by rushing four. Sam Darnold he's a mobile guy. He can get away from pressure. He can run a little bit, but he just makes a lot of bad mistakes too, bad decisions, inaccurate throws when he does get pressured. And in the last two games, he's thrown 5 interceptions. Before these last two games, the narrative was going around is that, well, Darnold's a new guy. They got him out of the circus with the New York Jets. He's got a solid foundation with him in Carolina. Look how great he's doing. But the last two games, it's been the New York Jets Sam Darnold. I'd like to see that Sam Darnold show up tomorrow against the Vikings as well. And for that to happen, I think it's going to be a lot on, again, Danielle Hunter and Everson Griffin, and maybe some well-timed blitzes from one of the linebackers, Kendricks, Vigil, whoever. I don't even mention Barr anymore because he never gets home.
Well, you can see Sam Darnold's taken 14 sacks on the season so far. It's not exceptionally high, but it's higher than Kirk Cousins has.
8 of those have been in the last 2-3 games as well, when he hasn't had McCaffrey. They also didn't have Cam Irving last game, but I think he might be playing this week. Again, I think that your injury report had him out, though, but I'd seen different things this week. But really, like some quarterbacks, Tom Brady, you try to blitz him or pressure him, it doesn't seem to bother him as much. But Darnold is a guy that can get rattled with pressure. If the Vikings can get the kind of pressure that they've been able to exert the past 2-3 games, I think that's going to help them a lot. I would think that, double doink. The Jets Patriots game where Darnold was seeing ghosts. That's that famous quote. I don't know if Zim and Belichick have the same kind of defensive philosophies, prepare the same way, but really the Panthers do, with DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, they do have 2 wide receivers who are very good, who can hurt you, particularly Moore, but you got to have time to find those guys. And again, Darnold hasn't had much time the past 2 weeks, so he's been a bit inaccurate at times. He's had the 5 interceptions. Some of those plays have been nice plays by the people, the DBs who have intercepted him, but He has not played very well the past 2 games. And I guess the good news for us as a Vikings fan is that the Vikings defense, even though I'm still not sold on them, they are. Hey, you look at the points they've given up the past 3 games. Not too bad. 17 against Seattle, 14 against the Browns, and then 16
Yeah,
last
we're
week
hitting we're
against the
hitting our
Lions.
Mendoza line.
And below it, it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like, but what is it still, even with that low point total, there's been a lot of concerns, particularly from me, of the run defense still looks pretty shoddy. And I don't know. That looks like it might be a season-long thing, even if we do get when Mike Pierce comes back. And tomorrow you don't have McCaffrey, but it doesn't seem to matter who the other team runs out against us. The running back has success. The offensive line has success. As far as blocking our guys. Ben Lieber was asked about this after the game last week, and he talked about, we were missing Pierce, but one guy shouldn't be the end all
Right.
for your run defense. And he talked about there was some technique things he was seeing from the Vikings where they were messing up, not hitting gaps properly, not crossing the face of the blockers the way they should. And I thought it was pretty interesting. I didn't understand it all, but he as a player saw like kind
Right.
of not
And one
even
that
like
played
big,
linebacker. And
yeah,
hopefully with Barr back, we hope to see that improvement because you should have more experienced players there. One of the best defensive players ranked so far this season is Nick Vigil. You have Barr, Kendricks, and Vigil out there. They should be able to fill any holes that are left. The whole idea about the 4-3 is that the front four take up your blockers and open the holes, leave the gaps for the linebackers to fill. In the old days, they were getting runs and they were going to meet that running back in the hole, right? It's slightly different today because there's a lot more passing, but they still have that responsibility. And the whole idea is my gap, this is my responsibility. The opposing offense is going to try to block and get a blocker on them to wash them out. What Ben Lieber is talking about is to make sure that they shed those and still fill those gaps. And that's not what we've seen successfully so far at stopping the run game. So how long does it take to gel? Defensive line to gel? As long as it takes.
Well, they haven't been gelling too well lately on the run
No.
defense stuff, but the pass wise, at least clearly
Secondary.
the return of Danielle Hunter and the fountain of youth that Everson Griffin has found, and now he's starting again. He's taken over the starting job from DJ Wanham, and can't say that can't say I disagree with that one bit. But the pass rush has come to life. Hell of a lot better than it was last year. Very encouraging. But the run defense is still a problem. And if they continue to play run defense like they have, I think that it's just it's going to allow Carolina to have a more ability to do what they want to do, which is not allow Hunter and Griffin and whoever else to tee off on him and go after the offensive line and really harass him on passing attempts.
Well, it gives the other team more life.
Oh yeah.
And you don't want to do that. You want to snuff it out as soon as possible, as quick as possible.
I don't see the Panthers like putting in I don't see the Panthers putting up like a gazillion points on us, but with points going to be hard to come by for the Vikings. At least that's how I feel coming into this game. Really, if you give up 20 to 23, that might be too much in this one, because the Vikings offense certainly has not been explosive in the past couple of games, and so I don't know if they'll be able to accomplish what Dallas was able to accomplish 2 games ago against the Panthers defense.
Right. I looked up the line, but I did not look up the over under. Does any of the fans have it? It's 40 something, which means relatively low scoring.
Mm-hmm. That would be quite low in today's NFL for sure.
Mm-hmm. Here we go. Let's pop this up. Come on. Yes, I want to see it. Come on, tell me. The over under is presently 45 and a half.
So there you go.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking at like a like a 24-20 type game, which seems about kind of right.
Mm-hmm. Do you think Sam Darnold will keep turning over the football?
Maybe not to the extent that he has the past 2 weeks, because the Vikings aren't creating a lot of turnovers. Their defensive backs don't have any interceptions.
Hello, Eve.
The only Hey, Eve, that's a new name. I don't know if I recognize that one.
Watching the show.
We've got our two interceptions. We've got Xavier Woods had one, and then our linebackers have two. And those are the three interceptions we have. And one of them was like an unreal catch by Kendricks last week.
Oh, that was beautiful. The one hand.
That was the best. Yeah, that was the best catch Vikings made all year. And he's a linebacker. So, yeah, I think that the Vikings haven't really shown like a knack for creating turnovers this year. On the other hand, they haven't turned the ball over a ton either, which is nice. But I think that the max we'll see tomorrow will be 2, and maybe so. I'm hoping for I'm thinking Darnold throws one interception and we get a fumble recovery somewhere there too. That's where I think it's going to, and hopefully the Vikings don't turn the ball over themselves and have a clean game that way. So I don't think that Darnold is going to be as turnover happy in this game as he has last game, just because we haven't been that kind of a turnover ball hawking type defense so far. But if you pressure them and make them make bad decisions and throw things a little bit inaccurately, then you got a shot. But our DBs have to be able to take advantage of those things too, and that's kind of something, last year our defensive backs didn't have really very many interceptions either. There was only three interceptions by defensive backs last year. Harrison Hand had one, and Dantzler had the other two. Otherwise, it was a big zilch.
Yep. Stephen asked, because McCaffrey's out, do we turn our attention to Robbie Anderson as one of the graphics? I did not prepare. I did prepare for DJ Moore. DJ Moore is their leading receiver and should get a lot of work when it comes to tomorrow. Anderson is, I think, the second one, if I remember looking right. But what do you think?
The Panthers would be wise to get the ball to him. He's a deep threat. And as Double Doink is mentioning, with Bashad Breeland likely starting again, that's a guy that any team is going to target with your receivers. And he has given up some deep balls as well. So I think Robbie Anderson, I think that the Panthers will try to get the ball to him. They'd be wise to do so. And one of the reasons I think that they will try to do that, not only because it's smart to do so, but Anderson was very upset at the end of last game, particularly on the game-ending, not game-ending, but the interception. Darnold's third interception was intended to Anderson. It got picked by Nelson from the Eagles. That basically ended the game for the Panthers. And Robbie Anderson was very, very upset at the end of the game. He felt that the Panthers' offense they didn't change the routes that they were running, and that they kept running the same thing. Sounds familiar. And that the Eagles' defensive backs were sitting on routes, and the Panthers didn't adjust to that. So he was very upset about that. He got asked about it in the press conference this week, and I think that, and then Joe Brady, the offensive coordinator for the Panthers, talked about, well, I've got to do better. I've got to do a better job of getting the ball into the hands of my playmakers. So I think that they're going to make a concerted effort to get Anderson the ball. And we know he can run. We know he's a deep threat. I think he's going to see the ball more if Darnold gets time to throw it to him.
And hopefully he won't.
He won't, yes.
One of the things I wanted to point out, this one with DJ Moore, he's got 24 first downs. He is one of their primary targets when they're going for first downs. So the defense needs to keep that in mind and be able to defend against. I think the defense will be ready to do both those receivers. And so I'm looking forward to it. But if Breeland's starting, and hopefully he's not, because from what I gather, what's his face? Rookie last year.
What's his face? Cameron Dantzler.
Cam Dantzler is off of COVID protocols. He's back. So will he start? That's one of those questions. Will Dantzler start? Will Christian Darrisaw start? I think we're going to have to wait till tomorrow to find out.
I think that Dantzler definitely won't. I don't think Dantzler will start, but they haven't put him in the games unless they've. The previous game against the Browns, Dantzler got put in there. Apparently, Breeland had an illness, quote unquote.
Right.
But it came after he had a blown coverage, so there was the speculation that Breeland had been benched. We will see if I am not based on Zimmer's love of veterans and his dislike of seemingly dislike of Dantzler's play to some degree. I'm not really too jazzed about his chances of starting tomorrow, but I've been wrong often this season, so hopefully I'm wrong on that one. Darrisaw, I think it's going to be a timeshare tomorrow. He'll get some snaps. He might play a little bit more than he did last week.
Hopefully
I think this
will.
would be I think the Vikings might be reluctant to throw him in the deep end against the Panthers when you got Reddick and Burns that he has to deal with. I think they'd like to ease him into it a bit more. But if Hill is ineffective, they might, and the offense really isn't moving with Hill at left tackle, and he's having some big issues handling the pressure from whether it's Reddick or Burns or whoever's rushing against them, then I think that the Vikings might be forced to put Darrisaw in there and just keep him in there and just say, hey, it can't get any worse.
Right. Dan, that's a good thing. How much did having COVID take out of Dantzler, and does he need to build that back up again? That's good
true.
observation.
He may be. I think he may not be 100% physically as far as his conditioning, or he might not be feeling the best, and that might be a case of they have to limit his snaps because maybe his breathing's a little bit off. Who knows?
The fact that we don't know how bad he had it, and so we don't know. But it's a good observation.
He did.
Speaking of 100%, Eve asked, do we think Cook is?
No, he is not 100%. But what percent that is? Is it 85%? Is it 90%? Is it 75%? I don't know. I know to me, in a very unscientific eye test against Seattle, he looked about 75% to me. 75% Dalvin Cook. He kind of looked like that level to me. He's had a week and a bit off. So I think that he'll obviously be a little bit better. We'll know. I think we'll know after the first few runs from Cook what percent he's at. If he's got the jump, if he's making those cuts explosively, then I think we can feel good about it. The only thing is when you got an ankle injury, hey Dave, you get one tackle around that area and it gets twisted up, and you go from 90% to 60 or worse pretty quickly. And it's going to be, if Cook gets a large amount of the work in this game, it's going to be pretty hard to avoid him getting in some of those situations.
Right. And it's, in the old days, we used to tape the heck out of it. But, if I played with ankles, but ankle injuries, but as a lineman, it's not the same as a running back that relies on his ability to cut and do the cutback and be explosive. So,
And that's a big part of Cook's game, right? Like that ability to cut on a dime and just go boom.
And change direction, see a hole to the left, and boom, switch, plant, and go.
Yeah.
And to go from 0 to 100 through the hole.
Yeah. That's right. Cook's.
That's where Alexander Madison lacks.
He did have a 48-yard run last week, though.
He did.
And where he did a little bit of Dalvin Cook cutting and explosiveness himself.
In rotation with Cook and Madison. There will always be some sort of rotation. Cook will get some plays off.
I think we'll have to see how things go, but he might get more, there might be more of a rotation with Cook and Madison this week than normal. Remember the first couple of weeks, Madison had I think he had 4 carries total. He was not getting any work at all. And then against the Browns, it was a lot different because Cook wasn't 100% and he couldn't take. They were trying to be mindful of that, I think, and split the carries a lot more. I think we might see a bit more of that tomorrow. But if Cook is looking really good and he's cooking and the running game's smoking, I don't think Madison is going to see a whole lot of carries, to be honest, and I'll be okay with that.
Yeah,
I just want this offense to score points.
Oh, yeah, sometimes they do, and rolling up on the knees is the worst part, Dan. And then cutting us, playing defensive end. I hated when backs would cut me. It just irritated me to know it. We're at the end of the show.
Yep.
How do you think tomorrow is going to go, and what is your prediction?
Oh, Dave, I've been so pessimistic this whole season, and so I apologize to the viewers out there who have a little bit more optimistic and drink the purple Kool-Aid maybe a little bit more freely than I do. But my prediction is that it's going to be 24-14 for the Panthers. We'll go 2-4 into the bye. And thanks, Stephen. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Where are you from, Australia? Aussies, Stephen. Let us know. Another ugly game. Yeah, I don't know ugly. I don't mind slobber knocker games too much, but I see 24-14 for the Panthers.
Okay. I called on Wednesday. I think the Vikings win, but I think it's relatively close. It's not going to be a blowout. It's going to be hopefully an entertaining game, and guaranteed we'll be here watching it. And then right before that final whistle, join CTP Live as we have all 4 of our regulars back. Me, Jason, Flip, and Matt for the final score. And we're the first post-game show on the air. You join us before you join anybody else, and we'll discuss the reaction, good or bad. Hopefully it's good. If it's bad, the conversation's going to get heated. And everybody knows it.
Last week it was bad, even though it was good.
Yeah, that's right. Port Macquarie, north, southwest, east coast, southwest coast, near God's country. 0-3. Darren, I hope you prove you wrong. Well, let's see. Double Dunk calls 34-21, a high scoring game.
Oh man, that would be a sweet result. Double Doink. The offense scores 34. We only give up 21. That's the kind of team that I want the New South Wales. Like, I was trying to remember. Okay. Steve and I was in Sydney in 2009, so I should remember all that stuff, but I don't.
God, I wanted to be stationed there for the longest time. It was a year remote to work as quality assurance on the flight line. And I finally get ready to do it, and I was going to get selected. Yay! And then they said, nope, we're changing it over to contractors. The Air Force Chief of Staff said, why should we send military people? It's just a party. They only fly 2 airplanes in there a week. And I was like, yeah, that's why I want to go.
Yeah.
It'd be fun. I've always wanted to see Australia. It'd be a blast.
Yeah, just got to deal with the 16-hour flight. Other than that,
I've
you're
been
good.
on long flights before. The problem is right now they're more locked down on COVID than any other place in the world. Other than China when they welded people into their houses. It's got to be close to that. Anyways, with that cheery news, let's say our final pieces. What do you have there, Darren? I got more.
Well, I'm gonna weld myself into in tomorrow to my condo to watch the Vikings game at 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. I was gonna. It's getting too late. I was gonna mention some interesting late game stats for Kirk Cousins, Mr. Clutch Kirk. But I might have to save those for another time. Just keep in mind, if it's late in the game, and this is a close game, and we need the Vikings have the ball and they need to drive to score to either tie or win it.
Mm-hmm.
This year, you should feel more confident about Cousins in this situations than you have any of the 3 previous years that he's played.
Or the whole 10 years of his career. Yes.
Yeah. It's very surprising to see what he's done in the last drive of the game, in the 4 games that have come down to the last, where we've needed a score to either tie the game or win it. I'll just put it that. Take a look at the take a look at the play-by-play, Vikings fans, in our 5 games this year, and tell me what you notice about Cousins and the offense in those times. Mm-hmm. Can't do shit the rest of the second half, but that last drive in the second half, we're doing okay.
Double doink, we're at 30% to make the playoffs. We win tomorrow, that jumps up to about 42. We keep winning, that goes up even higher. And all
There's
you have
a ton of teams, 3-2 and 2-3 right now.
2 and 3, yeah. And the more you can win, the better. Obviously, this is obvious stuff. The better off you are. The Vikings still are not dead. So don't count them out. When people are playing for their football lives, they're plenty motivated. So, with that, Skull Vikings! We'll see you tomorrow.
Skull Vikings. Woo-hoo.
Thank you for watching or listening. As always, if you like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. And if you're listening to the podcast, please rate us on your favorite aggregator. Skol, everybody.